Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
Welcome to the deep dive. You sent us some really fascinating material this time.
We did get some good stuff.
And we've jumped right in. Today, we're looking at an article, actually straight from the Guinness World Records website itself, published just yesterday, April 9th, 2025.
Fresh off the press, so to speak.
Exactly. So get ready, because this deep dive, it's all about a German aerospace engineer who, well, decided living on land was maybe a bit too ordinary.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. It's definitely not your average story. We're looking at a pretty incredible feat of human endurance, but also is tied into this novel idea about, where humans might live in the future.
Right. So our mission today is to kind of unpack that, understand the motivations, what the experience was actually like down there.
And maybe the bigger picture, the implications of setting up a home, quite literally under the sea.
Okay, let's get into it. The article introduces us to Rudiger Köch. He's a German aerospace engineer. And the record. He didn't just break it, he absolutely smashed it. Longest time spent living in an underwater fixed habitat. For a male, specifically.
And the time was just astounding, 120 days.
120 days.
120 days, wow.
Almost 4 months. He went under September 26th, 2024, and didn't come back up until January 24th, 2025.
So that previous record, 100 days by an American.
Yeah, Joseph Tuturi, Köch really pushed past that mark significantly by 20 days.
Okay. And he did this in something called a SeaPod. The article uses this great description, first of its kind underwater structure, and even compares it to a bond layer, which, that paints a picture, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Makes it sound very sleek and maybe a bit mysterious. But it's a real project by a company called Ocean Builders.
Ocean Builders, okay.
And here's a key detail. Rudiger Köch, the guy who broke the record, he's actually co-founder of Ocean Builders.
Oh, interesting. So he wasn't just a volunteer test subject. Not at all. He was involved from the ground up alongside the CEO, Grant Romundt. So this was very much about demonstrating their own tech, their vision.
And that vision, according to the article, is showing the ocean as a potential, alternative habitat.
Exactly. A viable place for humans to live. It's a bold idea.
It really is. So this SeaPod, what did it actually look like? You mentioned it's a fixed habitat.
Right. So unlike a submarine, it stays put. The design sounds pretty cool. There's a rounded living space above the water.
Okay.
With these 360-degree panoramic windows. That's actually where his support team was during the record attempt.
That makes sense. Support nearby.
Yeah. And then from that above water part, there's a staircase inside a vertical tube that goes down to the underwater living space. That's where Rudiger spent the 120 days.
Got it. So 2 levels, basically. One wet, one dry.
And anchored.
Anchored to the sea, but yeah. That's the fixed part.
And the article mentions something else about the structure itself, the underwater part, doing double duty. Yes, this is a really neat aspect. The external structure isn't just holding the living space. It's designed to provide shelter for fish.
Oh, cool.
And over time, it basically goes an artificial reef. So there's an environmental benefit built right in.
That's clever.
Yeah, and they use some special tech, apparently, special materials to prevent rust and even release nutrients to help marine life colonize it.
Wow, they really thought about the marine integration.
Seems like it. The article suggests a pretty sophisticated approach, though it doesn't give, all the technical nitty-gritty.
Right. So integrating it into the environment, where exactly was this? Off Panama, you said?
Yep, off the northern coast of Panama. And he was about 11 meters down. So what's that? Right around 36 feet.
36 feet. Okay, so not super deep, like deep sea exploration, but definitely properly underwater.
Right. Accessible with standard diving gear, which is interesting. Puts you right in that active marine zone.
Okay, so picture it. Nearly 4 months, 36 feet down. The article says he was, doing normal stuff, eating, emails.
Yeah, working. And even working out on an exercise bike.
An exercise bike underwater. Well, inside the pod, obviously. But imagine the view while cycling.
Right. Instead of a gym wall, you've got schools of fish swimming past the window. The article really emphasizes that constant presence of marine life.
Must have been incredible, that constant connection.
You'd think so. A very immersive experience.
And the space itself.
Yeah.
How big was his underwater spot?
It was about 30 square meters, so roughly 320 square feet.
Okay, so not palatial, but manageable, like a small studio apartment.
Pretty much. But it had the essentials. Bed, toilet, TV.
TV, okay.
Internet, which we mentioned is pretty key.
Definitely.
And that exercise bike.
And how did he get, like, food and supplies?
That all came via boat from the coast, from Puerto Lindo. They'd deliver meals and anything else he needed. So isolated, yes, but not completely cut off from support.
And safety.
Yeah.
They had that covered.
Yeah, continuous health monitoring. There were medical professionals upstairs in the above water section keeping tabs on him the whole time.
That's reassuring. Definitely needed for something like this. But then, okay, the article mentions no shower.
Huh. Yeah, that detail definitely stands out.
For 120 days. Wow. That's dedication.
It certainly highlights the practical challenges, doesn't it? Makes you wonder about the day-to-day realities. The article doesn't specify the hygiene routine, but...
Yeah. Instead of showering, he was talking to journalists, apparently.
And reading Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
You couldn't write it better. Reading that book while literally living under the sea.
Talk about method acting, or method reading, I guess.
Right. Okay, you mentioned the tech earlier, the environmental side.
Mm-hmm.
What about waste and water? That seems like a big challenge underwater.
It is.
Yeah.
And they apparently had a specific innovation for that, a wastewater recycling system.
Ah.
The article highlights it as being effective enough that they didn't need an external freshwater supply piped down to the SeaPod.
So totally self-sufficient in terms of water.
That's what it suggests, which is a pretty big deal for making these kinds of habitats viable long-term. Less reliance on surface support.
It really sounds like they tried to cover all the bases. Now let's talk about Rudiger's experience. His personal take. The article quotes him on the sounds down there.
Yeah, he talked about the sounds, especially at night. He became really aware of all the crustaceans.
Crustaceans like crabs and shrimp.
Yeah, exactly. All the clicks and scuttling. Just the general ambient noise of a busy reef environment.
Huh. You don't normally think about the sound of the ocean floor.
Right. He also noted how quickly the ecosystem seemed to embrace the SeaPod, how life flourished around it after it was installed.
So it really did become part of the reef.
It seems so. And he said this whole immersive experience just profoundly deepened his connection to the ocean.
I can imagine.
Gave him a much greater appreciation for how important it is, how vital. He really hoped the project would inspire people to think more about ocean health.
That's a great takeaway. Beyond just setting a record.
Definitely a bigger message there. He framed it as crucial for the planet's future.
And the company, Ocean Builders, what was their angle? The CEO, Grant Romundt.
Talked about pushing boundaries, human potential, pioneering sustainable ocean living.
Right.
Basically demonstrating what's possible if you think outside the box, or in this case, under the waves. He sounded really proud of the team and excited about where this could lead.
It's ambitious. Did Rudiger address the, maybe, skepticism? The idea that this is just, a cool toy for rich people?
He did. He pushed back on that idea pretty directly. Called it a kind of status quo bias.
Status quo bias, okay.
Like, just because it's different, people might dismiss it. And he posed this question, something like, are we going to reach for the oceans or only reach for the stars?
Interesting framing.
Yeah. And he basically said, look, ocean builders, we choose the ocean, we go out to the ocean. Quite a statement of intent.
Definitely sounds like they're serious about that. Okay, so fast forward. 120 days are up. He surfaces. What was the Guinness World Record part like?
The article says the Guinness reps were right there when he came out of the SeaPod.
Oh, nice. Instant gratification.
Pretty much.
Right.
Presented him with the official certificate. His Ocean Builders colleagues were all there celebrating. And then he apparently spent time explaining the project and the potential benefits to everyone.
Sounds like a great moment. Validation for a huge effort.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's sort of wrap this up. This deep dive into Rudiger Köch's 120 days. It's clearly more than just a world record.
Oh, absolutely. It's a story about human endurance, definitely, but also about testing some really cutting-edge technology and maybe gaining this incredibly unique personal perspective on marine life and the ocean itself.
It really makes you think differently about where and how we could potentially live.
Precisely. It's this compelling mix, isn't it? Personal challenge, engineering, and this growing awareness of our oceans.
Yeah.
It certainly raises some big questions.
Which brings us perfectly to our final thought for you, our listener. Thinking about this SeaPod project, this underwater living experiment, what other unconventional places might hold untapped potential for us, for human habitation or maybe just exploration?
Yeah, where else could we go? What are the next frontiers, maybe closer than we think?
And what are the big hurdles, the challenges, but also the exciting opportunities that come with trying to venture into those kinds of, well, uncharted territories? Definitely something to ponder.
Food for thought.
Thanks for diving deep with us again.